Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. This has been a wonderful evening, yes? Honestly, I'm thrilled to have been here. And first things first, we used to say in the Senate, by a point of personal privilege, I want to say I'm particularly happy to be here with my wife, Hadassah, our daughter, Hani, and our son-in-law, Dr. Daniel Lowenstein. And I'm proud to say in 2018, Hani and Daniel made Aliyah with 4 boys. Since then, they've added a 5th boy. We're trying to do our best for Israel in the Lieberman family. Anyway, it is a real privilege to be here tonight to literally launch the National Institute for Shabbat. This is the perfect place, Beit HaNassi, with the perfect host, President Yitzhak Bougie Herzog, in the presence of Minister Kahana. You know, Ruthie's tried to explain to me, minister, deputy minister. I said, Ruthie, I'm having enough trouble trying to understand American politics, let alone Israeli politics. Whatever Matan's title is, he has been a strong and steadfast supporter of our movement to put Shabbat at the true center of Israeli life. So it's an honor that you're here. Minister Elkin, we thank you in abstention and all this wonderful, diverse group of religious, governmental, professional, and business leaders here. I'm particularly honored to speak this evening as the chair of the board of the National Institute for Shabbat. Achieving election to this position was not the hardest campaign I ever ran in my life. However, it may well be that the work of the Shabbat Institute is as important as anything I was able to do in the other positions for which I ran harder campaigns. I believe in Shabbat, I love Shabbat, and I identify with the purpose which has been stated tonight so well by so many people of the National Institute, which is to make observance of Shabbat a source of national unity in Israel. Our goal is not to convert more Israelis to what we call in America Orthodox Judaism. It is to connect more Israelis to Shabbat traditions by opening the doors of Shabbat to them. And here I tell you a quick personal story. Years ago, somebody that I had become friendly with, who was in the Israeli Foreign Service, was in Washington for a week to meet with colleagues in the State Department. So Hadassah and I asked him to come to our house for a Shabbat dinner on Friday night, and he said yes, he'd come. As we sat down at the table, he said, I must apologize to you and really warn you that this is the first religious Shabbat dinner I've ever been at in my life, and you'll have to help me understand what to do. So I said to him, surely you must work with people in Israel who are dati. Oh, I do, but they never have invited me to their house for Shabbat dinner. So in a way, this is the purpose of the National Institute, to make sure that not only this man, but any other Israeli can never say that about being separated from observance of Shabbat. The goals of this institute are big and ambitious, but I think they're imperative to achieve for the future well-being of this extraordinary state and this constantly changing, as President Herzog said, Zionism as the state expresses it. And I will tell you something. I'm optimistic that the National Institute will achieve the big goals it has for one big reason. Ruthie. She is. Her principles, her persistence, her energy. Let's face it, she's a real nudge, you know? But we're going to get this done because she drives it so hard. In a way, through this premature Tikkun Leil Shabbat, we've already begun to achieve the goals. I want to take the opportunity to say a few words about the substantial connection between Shavuot and the Shabbat institution and why this Tikkun Leil Shabbat is exactly the right place to launch the Shabbat Institute. As you and I know, Shabbat is probably the most important, least observed of the Jewish Chagim. My rabbis taught me that it's the most important because it was on Har Sinai that Israel became a nation. We got our mission statement, we got the Torah and the law. It wasn't just Yetziat Mitzrayim, it was when we got the law on Har Sinai. And through the Torah and the Ten Commandments, Hashem taught us, particularly on Shavuot, that people really cannot live safely, honorably, and happily without the law, without rules, to guide and discipline us by differentiating between good and bad behavior and by expressing through law our best aspirations for ourselves and the communities in which we live. This insight from Har Sinai and these values, as we well know, have been embraced by other religions and other peoples and are now the basis for the rule of law that defines so many good societies around the globe. So Shavuot and what we celebrate on Shavuot, like Shabbat, is surely one of the Jewish people's, one of Hashem's great contributions to the world. What we celebrate on Shabbat and how we celebrate it can also be a doorway to greater unity and peace in Israel and among Jews everywhere, and I want to quickly explain why I say that. In Judaism today, it is obvious that we cannot all pray together, and that reality divides us. But Shavuot reminds us that we can learn Torah together, and that can and will unite us more. Whether here in Israel we're Chiloni or Masorti or Dati or Haredi, or in the U.S. Orthodox, Conservative, Reform, or Reconstructionist, or none of the above, we can sit together to study and discuss Torah on Shavuot, on Shabbat, which is a central tenet of the National Institute, and really on any day. But to make that possible, we must make room at our tables for anyone who wants to join in the learning. And I think that's why it was so perfect that the Institute has started these three initiatives that were announced tonight: environment, the economy, and Shabbat as a way for social cohesion, not with committees, but at what we're calling tables, because there has to be room at our tables for anyone who wants to join. There is a second broader lesson that I take from Shabbat, and in some sense, frankly, this is drawn from the sad and divided state of American politics and world politics. It may occasionally have some relevance to Israeli politics as well. And it is this: Shabbat reminds us that Jewish law, halachot, were developed after Sinai in a long process of spirited discussion, debate, disagreement, but ultimately resolution among rabbis, scholars, and lay people. That history, which continues today, should be a model for how we in our societies more broadly can debate each other, about how we can disagree without hating each other and dividing from one another. In other words, Shavuot can teach us how to bring the peace of Shabbat Shalom, to the rest of the week and to our broader societies. Those lessons of Shavuot, of course, are at the heart of the spirit of outreach, inclusion, and unity that animates the National Institute for Shabbat. I will add, as a Jewish American living like millions of other Jews in the diaspora, that one bonus of more Israelis sitting down together at the National Shabbat table will be the building of bridges over the troubled waters that now separate too many Jews in the diaspora from the state of Israel because they feel personally, religiously disrespected, and in that sense, unwelcome here now. One more bonus. During my political career in America, I was surprised to find that my Shabbat observance, which was unusual among elected officials in America, was actually a help and not a hindrance in my political career, because it connected me to non-Jews in a way that was totally non-political. In the same way, I want to suggest that a more visible connection of the State of Israel with Shabbat can improve and deepen Israel's bonds with people of other faiths around the world who are attracted to the values and observances of Shabbat. Let me return now to the beginning as I close, and to thank our host, President Yitzhak Herzog and Michal, too, for hosting this evening and for embracing the vision of the National Institute for Shabbat. President Herzog is really the ideal sponsor of this movement, not just because he is the president of Israel, but because his life has been so committed to building bridges, so committed to Judaism, to Israeli democracy, and to the unity of the Jewish people. President Herzog has already built an extraordinary record of accomplishment for the State of Israel in the relatively short time he's been president. But if I may, I believe his support of this institute, and more broadly of the idea of Shabbat as a unifier in Israeli society, can ultimately be one of his greatest accomplishments and one of his greatest legacies as a great public servant. And for that, Bougie, I thank you very, very much. A final thank you to Ruth, whose idealism and energy, as I said before, brought the Shabbat movement to the high ground here at Beit HaNassi that it occupies this evening. But of course, as she knows better than anybody, this is not the end of her work or ours. It is just the beginning. We have big dreams, which we can and will realize if, to paraphrase Herzl's famous comment, we will them and work together to make our dreams real. And now it seems fitting at the home of the great current president of Israel to close with the words of a great former president of the United States, John F. Kennedy. Let us go forth from here, asking God's blessing and God's help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own. Thank you very, very much.